July 31st, 1993. I'd been up since 6 o'clock trying to get everything to fit into my kayak. After eliminating the non-essential items, I managed to squeeze my sleeping bag, some food and equipment, and a video camera into my boat. My kayak now weighs more than the Queen Mary. The helicopter arrives promptly at 8 o'clock. The boats are tied together, then placed in a sling. Before I know it, I'm on the first flight out. The Stein Valley is the last major watershed in southwestern British Columbia that has not been dammed or logged. There are no roads. For the last 20 years, the future of the Stein has been bitterly contested. On one side, the pro-development forces, represented by the logging industry. On the other side, a coalition of environmental groups that would like to see the area preserved in its natural state. And stuck in the middle, trying to appease both sides, the provincial government of British Columbia. In 1989, Robin Barley and 2 other kayakers did the first complete descent of the Stein River. Since then, it's only been repeated a handful of times. Our group, which includes Robin Barley, consists of 8 kayakers. In the next 3 days, we will paddle 60 kilometers from the headwaters of the Stein down to its confluence with the Fraser River. While we were waiting for the kayaks and the rest of our crew, I think about what Robin had said last night. After checking the water gauge on the Stein, Robin announced that the water level was twice as high as when he had originally paddled the Stein in 1989. That's not what I wanted to hear. That night I'd lain awake searching for any sort of excuse to allow me to back out. I fell asleep before I could think of a good reason. Now it was too late. The last load of passengers is brought in. We're on a gravel bar, somewhere on the upper reaches of the Stein River. When the helicopter leaves, it seems very quiet. There wasn't much time to warm up. It seemed like we'd just gotten into our boats when the river suddenly dropped out of sight. This marked the start of the upper canyon. For the next 8 kilometers, the Stein River is one continuous rapid as it plummets through a narrow granite canyon. Needless to say, everyone was a little apprehensive. But after a while, we quickly settled into a routine. When the river got too steep to see downstream, we would get out of our boats to take a look. If it was a difficult rapid, each person would decide whether they would walk or paddle the drop. It turns out that 4 out of the 8 paddlers in our group hold medical degrees. I find this very comforting. Only 3 people, all doctors, decide to paddle this drop, so naturally I call it the doctor drop. It would appear that the only thing lacking are white lab coats for Jeff Boyd and Mark Hurd as they wait for their colleague Doug Knottybrook to join them. I knew when I decided to film this trip it would be a lot of work. I had to constantly pack and unpack the camera, all the while trying to keep it dry. And I had to set up fast enough so I could catch everyone before they blasted downstream. But there were certain advantages. If I didn't like the look of a rapid, I would get out of my boat. I would stand on the shore and look at the river with what I thought was a critical cinematic eye. Then, when I got back into my boat, it would conveniently be at the bottom of the rapid. I was getting some footage of the waterfalls when I noticed something moving. Contrary to the group consensus, Jeff Boyd decided that this waterfall was runnable. When we stopped for the night, I was going to have to measure Jeff to see if he was any shorter. Jeff Marshall describes watching Jeff Boyd ricochet down the slot machine.
So here I am again, watching Jeff Boyd come down yet another drop, and wondering how he's going to do, whether he's going to go through okay or not. And it really doesn't seem to matter a whole lot because regardless of how it works, I'm probably going to blow it anyway, but might as well get some entertainment out of it.
Further downstream, we arrive at another waterfall. Although it's smaller than the previous falls, there appears to be a substantial pile of rocks at the very bottom of the falls. Jerome Truran goes first. Then Jeff Boyd tries his luck. Both paddlers make it look easy. At the start of the canyon, everyone was a little worried. No one knew what to expect. The river is proving to be quite difficult, but it's also excellent paddling. Everyone starts to relax and enjoy themselves. We're just about out of the upper canyon. Mark Hurd is paddling out in front.
I remember going over this drop where I couldn't see the bottom of the drop. I hit a hole at the bottom and it stopped me dead. The next thing I know, the back end of my boat went underwater and I did a rear ender. I hit my head and cut my thumb. It took me about 25 yards before I rolled up, and when I looked back, I realized I'd got under a log.
Two more kayakers are forced underneath the log before we manage to stop. We regroup after the log jam. The upper canyon soon ends and we have a well-deserved lunch break. After lunch, we start paddling the Middle Stein. The Middle Stein consists of 30 kilometers of relatively flat water. The only obstacle is the timber in the form of log jams. A word to the wise: pick your travel companions with care.
Seem to be in a bit of a jam here.
Here, Jeff Marshall demonstrates the proper technique for burrowing through the underbrush. After a few hours of going around, over the top and through log jams, we're all exhausted. We manage to paddle 20 kilometers of the Middle Stein. We find a gravel bar, collapse, and call it a day. Day 2 on the Stein. After the long day yesterday, it takes a while to get moving in the morning. But eventually, someone gets up and lights the fire. A little later, I can smell the coffee, and I start to entertain thoughts about getting out of my warm sleeping bag.
Another beautiful day on the mighty Stein.
Although the sun has yet to reach our camp, it looks like another hot and sunny day is in store. Another sunny day means all my footage will be overexposed again, but there's nothing I can do about it. Camp is slowly dismantled, the boats are repacked, and everyone starts moving towards the river. We have another 10 kilometers of the Middle Stein left to paddle. The day starts out well. It's sunny and there are no log jams to contend with. Everybody is thinking about the next section of river, the Lower Stein. 15 kilometers of continuous Class 4 and 5 rapids, all the way down to the Fraser River. The 10 kilometers of flat water passes quickly, and we soon notice the current is picking up speed again. Almost before we know it, we start into the lower Stein. The beginning of the lower Stein turns out to be very enjoyable paddling, but as we paddle further into the lower Stein, the gradient of the river keeps increasing. The river that was once flat has now taken on a pronounced downhill slant. Our boisterous group becomes noticeably quieter. Broad smiles are replaced with grim concentration. We become more cautious. Every available eddy is used. Suddenly everyone is very polite. No, you can go first. People eagerly watch the first paddler. How did he do? Did he survive? What line did he take? The Devil's Escalator, the first major rapid. Consultants are brought in and a consensus is reached. Most of the group will walk. Mark Hurd decides to paddle a sneak route on the left-hand side. With Jeff Boyd perched like a bird of prey, giving helpful directions, Mark manages to bump his way down through the rocks. Jeff Boyd decides to paddle directly into the top of the Devil's Escalator. Although he makes it look very easy, I'm quite happy just to film this rapid. After shouting instructions at the kayakers to wait for a few moments, I go crashing through the underbrush and emerge halfway down the Devil's Escalator. I get set up just in time to film the action. It's here that I face a dilemma. As I'm filming Jeff Boyd, he becomes broached on a rock. If he tips upstream, he could get pinned. Or he may be able to rescue himself. What should I do? I keep the camera rolling, but decide to give him 5 seconds to extricate himself. If he's still stuck, I'll shut down and give him a hand. He manages to free himself, and I breathe a sigh of relief. But I wonder if I did the right thing. The potential for disaster is very real. Sometimes the line separating adventure and risk becomes stretched very thin. Jeff Marshall gets pushed around in the bottom of the Devil's Escalator, but he arrives wearing a big grin. I jump back into my boat and we continue on downstream. After another hour of paddling, everyone's starting to get a little tired. We find a campsite and settle in for the night. We're halfway through the lower Stein.
Gets the cutest pose of the triple word. I think that's the song, Chris. Too bloody hot. Actually, if you do this just right, you can balance the gear on it, right? Carlisle and I were having a competition one time.
You have to...
This one I have to look forward to, Glenn.
Great Danes, eh?
You know what they're moving? No. What a guy. Carries them down.
Yeah, he
doesn't even eat them. That's the lunch I'm more than eat it. You really should cook them for us, Robin.
Yeah. See why? He doesn't know.
Day number 3 on the Stein. We have 8 kilometers left to paddle. There's only one more big rapid to worry about. The Devil's Staircase. Who names these things? Why all these satanic references? Something a little more tranquil would be nice. It seems like we just got going, and we have to stop again. The Devil's Staircase. The Devil's Staircase turns out to be a very large boulder field with a little bit of water moving through it. The trick is to find enough water to get your boat through. No one, not even the intrepid Jeff Boyd, could see a clear line down the main rapid. But there is a shallow and rocky side channel on the right-hand side of the river. Doug Knottybrook runs the sneak route and exits at the bottom of the Devil's Staircase. The paddlers who elect to walk provide moral support and technical expertise. Jeff Boyd gets hung up on some rocks and then spun around, but he eventually makes it into the main channel where there is a little more room to maneuver. Once we pass the Devil's Staircase, I start to relax. The river is still technically demanding, but it seems that the worst is behind us. But what lies in store for the Stein River? Presently, the upper and lower Stein regions have been set aside and designated as wilderness areas, but the Middle Stein, the heart of the entire valley, is still under consideration by the British Columbia government for designation as a wilderness area. Until such a decision is made, there is still a possibility that the Stein Valley could be opened up to commercial exploitation, such as logging, mining, or the generation of hydroelectric power. Such a possibility would be nothing less than tragic. If you get too casual, the river will send you a little reminder. Jeff Marshall demonstrates. Morna Fraser carefully threads a line down through the rocks. Although we made it past the Devil's Staircase, the river does not let up. The end of one rapid seems to blend right into the start of the next. Looking downstream, the river appears to be one continuous cascade. In an eddy, Jerome and Morna discuss the complexities of paddling and sun hats. Up on the riverbank, someone spots the parking lot. It's where we started 3 days ago. This means it's only a short distance down to the bridge, which is above the confluence of the Fraser River. I am both happy and sad. Happy to be alive and in one piece, but sad because this trip seems to be over too soon. All too quickly, the bridge appears around a corner.
What's that? Really great, mate. Fantastic. Can't wait to do it again. Bloody unbelievable water. Incredible. Women all over. No, it was excellent. Really good.
Beautiful river. I've been wanting to do it for 10 years and finally got the chance.
Awesome. Absolutely awesome. That's my final word.
A little more good, clean fun.
Oh, it's world class. Really was nice. Yeah, it was good having some probes out too. Look at the back and paddle down.
Are you all set?
Yep.
I'm just glad to be alive again. Put it off for another 5 years.
Well, you don't have sound on that though, do you?
Yeah,
You do?
of course I do.
Well, I'd just like to thank my sponsors, and it's really nice to be here, with all these wonderful people. That's all.